Well, the Australian regime has claimed its latest scalp in the war on freedom down there. YouTube user Aussie Cossack, who has been documenting a lot of incidents with police and speaking out against all of the brutal lockdown that has been going on in that country for the past months or years or wherever we're at this point. He has been a thorn in the side of the government down there. He was recently, I think he was on Alex Jones's show a couple of times, which was probably, a huge boost to his notoriety considering the size of his YouTube channel. But then again, Australia is a really small country, so it's hard for me to judge as an American, the size of an Australian YouTube channel. He might be a behemoth by Australian standards. But either way, he's certainly a very notable anti-lockdown voice on social media, and someone who is passionate about trying to document police brutality and to shame a very important thing I talked about a few weeks ago, shame the officers who are involved in this. These guys should not be allowed to go about their day and be treated like good, upstanding citizens. They're bad people. They're criminals. And, they should be treated with nothing but contempt. You should try and go as far as you can to express to them that they're bad people, without violating the law and getting yourself arrested. And that's what Aussie Cossack did, on numerous occasions. That was, his whole shtick online. And they finally got him for it. They found some way, somehow, to charge him and get his face away from a camera so that they could shut him up. They arrested him for violating the Public Health Act. What better? An lockdown activist being arrested for, violating the lockdown. I don't know what their line was. I don't think they've released details yet. But they were going to do this whatever they could because, this guy's going to be under as much of a magnifying glass as he's trying to put over the government. It's kind of inevitable that they would find something, some way to comport their ridiculous tyrannical law in order to imprison him. And it's sad to see it happen, but, I applaud him because this is a sign of his commitment. It's not a fun thing to go to prison. It's not a fun thing to be prosecuted. It's not something that is, that's easy to deal with unless you're a very wealthy person, at least in this country. Maybe it's different in Australia. Maybe they have a legal system that maybe isn't as driven by money. But if that were the case, I would tend to think, my typical, call it pessimism or realism, if Australia's legal system is, less driven by money, then that probably just means that everybody has worse attorneys and that the government wins even more. That would be my guess. So either way, this guy's in a bad position. I don't know if he has any kids. I mean, I know he's married because his wife uploaded a video after he got arrested of him being arrested. And it's in a country as small as Australia that, doesn't have that many voices speaking out against this. And it's not that hard to just go around and round everybody up. Just like that woman who got arrested a few months ago, who's now out, and, she's, I think, now more popular than ever. The woman who got arrested for organizing a protest, because that's illegal. Protesting is illegal in Australia, so she got arrested for it and spent a little bit of time in jail. She's out on bail now. Hopefully, this Aussie Cossack will also be out on bail soon enough. Unfortunately, when you live in a despotic, authoritarian system, it's hard to be a good political activist, someone who is, an activist for a good cause, and not get yourself arrested and thrown in jail. Because, the Australian government has made it pretty darn clear, being a normal, free human being is against the law. Now, even if Aussie Cossack does get out on bail, I would think that his channel likely could be banned by YouTube, because I'm sure that whatever it is that the government is charging him over is probably something that he posted on his YouTube channel, And YouTube can probably, I'm sure, they can find whatever rule they want and say, oh, well, it's promoting violence or something. His video which broke the, the tyrannical public health law. I mean, heck, they could take him off YouTube for promoting violence against police officers. I believe YouTube might have been a part of that purge a couple of years ago against all the cop watch accounts. I remember that certainly was a big problem on Facebook, but I think it affected YouTube too, where you have a bunch of these left-wing cop watch accounts where they post up videos of police brutality, and they just kept getting taken down because social media does not want people seeing bad things about the government, even if the NPCs on TV tell us we're supposed to hate the cops. You're supposed to hate the cops on cue. You're not supposed to hate the cops 24 hours a day. 365 days a year, you're not supposed to be seeing police brutality videos. We only want you to think about specific cases like George Floyd or something, so that we can whip you up into a frenzy on cue. And so Aussie Cossack, his police brutality videos were not helpful to the regime's narrative. To any of the regimes, around the world. It's not like he was posting police brutality videos from Russia. No. Now, hopefully, instead of intimidating people, maybe, because there always is this chance when the regime cracks down on people, rather than discouraging more people from speaking out like Aussie Cossack has so bravely, perhaps they will inspire more people actually to speak out. Hopefully there will be blowback against this move. Because if you remember, when the woman, I forget her name now, who was arrested for organizing a protest, when she got arrested, that was a very, very fringe movement. There were very few people in Australia, even fewer than now, who were at all, who could even contemplate the idea that the government's measures were anything but just, common sense, in the public's best interest. And now, in the time since she's been arrested, that movement swelled quite a bit. And I think at least partially due to, people being red-pilled by what happened to her. And maybe, we'll see similar things with this guy. Maybe this will inspire, a bunch of his fans to go and start doing what he was doing before, themselves, and posting up their own videos. And that would be a great monument to his legacy, to have really kicked off a real movement. On the bright side of all this, a country like Australia, the reason why you get so much complacency amongst the citizenry to where they think that the government's always right is because Australia, relatively speaking, has been one of the freest countries on Earth since its forming of the modern government, of the modern federal government of Australia. It's been a pretty darn free place, and they're a pretty high trust society. So events like this, even though it can be quite traumatic, that trauma can linger in a positive way in the culture if in the future people look back on these times and say, hey, this actually really was a bad thing. Arresting dissidents and throwing them in prison under the pretext of public health, that's a bad thing. And so maybe the next generation of Australians who have grown up in all this, maybe they will, kind of like the post-communists in Eastern Europe, end up being better defenders of freedom than their forefathers. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.